Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the King Jordan Radio Show. Today is Thursday, November 30th, 2017, here on King Jordan Radio. So tonight on the show, we're going to be talking about Matt Lauer, the latest person to be accused of wrongdoings with a woman, and was he was fired from the Today Show. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about two police detectives that are charged with raping an 18-year-old girl, and their defense is that she was willing to do it, that she was she was basically all in. And in the middle of the street and on a cold night, she wanted to have sex with these two plainclothes officers, not buying it. We'll talk about LavarBall and Donald Trump. Was it right for Donald Trump to do what he did? Was it right, wrong for Lavar not to accept his apology? So we'll get into all that. So we're joined today with my good friend. He's an author. He lost a lot of weight with his book, and a lot of preparation, I'm sure. Also former attorney for the huge case, as you know, Jodi Arias. Let's bring back Mr. Nurmi. Kirk Nurmi joins us tonight. Good evening, Kurt. How are you? Welcome back to the show.
Good, Jordan. Great to be with you. It's great to talk to you, and I'll look forward to talking about some of these interesting topics that are hitting our world today.
Absolutely. I do want to ask you one thing. You don't have to answer it if you don't want. It's the elephant in the room. Just want to ask you what's already public knowledge about your former client, Jodi Arias, what they wrote in the New York Post about the lawsuit. If you have anything, can you say it now if you like? If not, we can move on.
Well, sure. I've given a general statement. I am denying the allegations that Ms. Arias has put forward in her lawsuit, and I am very much looking forward to combating those allegations in court. And that's, by and large, pretty much the entirety of my comments on that. But I deny everything. Go ahead.
This is a credibility case, some of the issues, and I would guess they would have to take a look at somebody like her credibility to see if she's believable. And all we have to do is go back to the case which you handled, and the jury found her her credibility lackluster, to say the least.
Ultimately, like I say, I guess I'm gonna stand silent on that. It's because of the pending litigation, but. Like I say, I certainly look forward to it, and I will say that those things in the complaint are certainly not true, or other than the fact that I represented her in Maricopa County. By and large, everything else in there is untrue, and I look forward to confronting each and every one of those allegations.
Besides the allegations and stuff like that, emotionally, when did you find out about this, and how did it make you feel when you heard about this lawsuit?
Oh boy, I probably heard about it when most people did. I'm a big people that have followed me or listened to me before. Maybe I've mentioned it or follow me on YouTube. I say, listen, I'm a big fan of Deepak Chopra, and I love what he says about you can't change the flow of the river. And look, this is going to happen. I look forward to defending it, and other than that, I've got a life to lead, and I'm going to move on with my life and keep working on the things that matter to me.
And how is life overall going? Not talking about the case. Besides that, everything
good.
okay?
No, good. Things have been good. The health is good. I think it's been a while since we've talked, but my most recent scan was good. I'm still in remission. I'm feeling good. Been working on a book related
should know that you came through a big cancer right around the trial was over, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, close. I mean, it was April of 2015 is when the trial ended, and somewhere late August, September, I discovered a lump under my lymph node, my right armpit, and that led to the conclusion that I had stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I went through 6 rounds of chemotherapy, which ended in late January of 2016, and then a week or two after that, found out that I was in remission, and fortunately now I've remained there for a long time. And I just, as a matter of fact, a few weeks ago now, I completed at least a draft of a manuscript where I talk about my cancer journey and some of those related issues as well. So I'm excited about that, and hopefully that will be out sometime next year.
That's awesome. And I remember we were talking, and you said even though they gave you a 70% chance, that's your life you're talking about. 70% is really nothing in the scheme of things when you first heard about that. Is that true?
Yeah, that's definitely true, because you say, okay, well, you got a 70% chance of living, but that's still a 30% chance of dying. So most people would feel comfortable making a bet in Las Vegas if they had a 70% chance of winning that bet, but they might not feel the same way, when their life is at hand and the fixation is that 30%. And for me, at age 49, that was quite a shock, because I'd never had a surgery in my life. I'd never had a major health scare, and my mortality was something that I'd never confronted. It was 20, 30 years down the road, at least in my mind. And that cancer changed all that and brought a new life into my world, where when I got done, by the time I went through the several-month process, I made the decision that I didn't want to live the remaining days that I had on this planet in the same way I had the prior. And that's why I was super comfortable ending my relationship with the Arizona bar, not even concerning myself with it, getting on to doing the things that I want to do, and like writing this book that I just completed, and that's just part of the mission. But people can go on NurmiUnchained.com to learn more. But I work to help lawyers, and I'm working on some keynote speeches, and hopefully in a way that will inspire people to kind of look at their lives differently without having to sit in a chemotherapy chair.
Yeah, that must have been awful from where you are and then where you were. So that must feel like a big, like, different life, if you will, from where you were.
Well, it was definitely quite a contrast from the excitement of the prior to the ultimate reality of sitting in a chemotherapy chair. No doubt about it.
And it's possible that stress, while probably didn't bring it on, didn't help it, right? Stress maybe working on this case and whatever. That could have helped it, right?
I've heard of studies that they'll say, a high percentage, maybe 75% of lymphomas and cancers are dealing with, some of them deal with obviously unhealthy habits, but stress is a big factor. And yes, I certainly believe that, while there's no evidence per se to back this up in my heart, I believe that the stress involved and everything involved in defending Miss Arias was the reason that cancer infested my body.
Oh, you believe that was the cause?
I believe that. Yeah, I mean, there's no evidence. There's no thing we can pinpoint and say, this is the reason, and I was otherwise healthy. And I think that, as you pointed out, stress is a big part and can be a big part of those things. And so, I definitely believe, like I say, there's no scientific proof. It's just what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, when we all go through stress, a lot of terrible things happen, like sneezing happens, for example. I don't know, I was reading, your back could hurt just from the simple fact of being through painful stress or worrying or what have you. All of these little things, but they start out little, but you notice you're sneezing or your back hurts or you can't walk the same, you get migraines, things like that start to happen, at least a lot of it, part of what I was reading, when you're involved with a lot of stress.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's not good for the body. It does cause a lot of problems. The recently deceased Louise Hay wrote a great book on this called You Can Heal Yourself, and just talks about the different issues in our lives, like anger and resentment and different things, how that can bring forward different diseases in us. And so it's a really interesting kind of way to look at life and just think about things more holistically, because in the hustle and bustle of everyday life and trying to make money and do all these things, caring for ourselves, like through exercise or meditation or whatever it might be, often gets pushed to the wayside, pushed to the side for more urgent concerns. But ultimately, I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do that. And that's one of the reasons I started working with lawyers, because, in the legal profession, there is a push for perfection. Nobody wants to hire a lawyer that's not perfect and not going to do everything, et cetera, et cetera. But lawyers are human beings. I know that might come as a shock to some people, but lawyers are human beings, and they're going to make mistakes just like any others. And, they're probably going to beat themselves up more about it or be beat up more about it. And when we try to impose perfection on ourselves, that is an impossible standard to meet. And so, that's part of the reason I think there's so much stress, substance abuse, and similar issues within the legal community.
Yes, that's a very good point. I'll talk to you about this story right here in my hometown. The two cops are charged with raping an 18-year-old girl. Their defense is saying that she was all for it. Let's play this clip, and then let's get your take on the other side here.
Internal investigation right now at the NYPD. An 18-year-old says that she was raped in a police department van after two detectives took her into custody. CBS 2's Andrea Grimes spoke with the accuser's attorney and has the story.
She's an emotional wreck.
Michael David says his 18-year-old client is beside herself, claiming she was raped in handcuffs by a plainclothes NYPD detective.
There was nothing she could do to defend herself.
He says it happened back on September 15th around 8 p.m. David says his client was driving in Calvert Vaux Park in Coney Island with two friends when two plainclothes detectives in a black van pulled them over. The detectives allegedly told the two friends to leave.
They told her to follow her, that she's under arrest, and they put handcuffs on her and they put her into the van.
David and police sources say the detectives drove her to a parking lot on Cropsey Avenue. It was here, they say, the two forced the 18-year-old to perform a sex act on both of them. David says one of the detectives then raped her. Police sources say the detectives claim the sex was consensual.
She's being brutalized twice here. First, they rape her. She's kidnapped, she's raped, and she's thrown onto the street. And then they go ahead and they victimize her again by saying it was consensual.
The attorney claims the cops dropped off his client a few blocks away from the 60th precinct. The president of the detectives union told CBS 2, quote, "These are serious allegations and I am very concerned," but could not elaborate. Sources say a DNA match is pending. An NYPD spokesperson says they placed those two detectives and their supervisor on modified duty as their internal investigation continues. In Brooklyn, Andrea Grimes, CBS 2 News.
Sources say that the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office is also investigating. So far, no charges have been filed.
Okay, Kirk, you heard the story. What's your take on this?
Well, certainly we have to, we've decided as a country that we're going to presume innocence, and these detectives have the presumption of innocence with them as they go forward during trial. But the situation at hand seems so abhorrent and such a breach of public trust. It's hard for me, and I had looked at another clip earlier today. It's hard for me to understand with this DNA and that sort of thing how consent can be argued when they have basically arrested this woman. I mean, you can't, it is non-consensual behavior when she's under arrest. So now, and there, to my understanding too, there's like 50 charges. So there's kidnapping. There's going to be a lot for the jury to sort out, because kidnapping in this situation it might be seen differently by a jury because they're cops and they might have the lawful authority to halt a person's movement, but they don't have that lawful authority to do that in a situation where they are committing a crime. So, it seems very hard. If I was the lawyer for these guys, and of course it's a case like this that makes me glad I'm not working as a lawyer anymore. But I'd be looking for a plea deal. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be looking to take this case to court. Because I think, even if this girl offered some sort of sexual favors in exchange for her release, I don't think the consent element, which is, I'm sure, what the cops are going to say, that she made this offer, blah blah blah, that
and you could argue the other way,
true and genuine.
They're not supposed to accept bribes.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they'd essentially be saying, "Hey, we did this thing." And look, I mean, they're in bad. Like I say, they're in bad stead. I'd be looking, if I was their attorney, I'd be looking for a plea agreement, because I don't know that there's going to be much way out of this for them with the DNA. If the DNA matches, where is that DNA going to be found? Based on the story I saw, she got to a nurse or a hospital fairly soon.
Right away.
So my assumption would be that they would have done a full, what we would call in Arizona, a SANE exam, which is a sex assault exam, and they would have checked for semen. They would have checked for pubic hair. There would have been all kinds of tests run on her to see exactly what behavior was engaged in, and how that comports with what the detectives have to say and what the alleged victim in this case has to say.
That's probably why they had to at least come up with something that puts them with the victim here by saying that it was consensual. They're almost admitting it happened because they know that the victim here got a rape kit, so they already know that the semen's going to match. So that's why they probably had to say something like it was consensual. You would agree?
I would assume. I mean, because I would think that the first place to look, in a case like this, would be to look at the evidence which is indisputable. I mean, there's, with the DNA. So if assuming their lawyers, took a good hard look at the DNA, where it was, what it was, and were able to kind of match that up, then and not feel like they could adequately challenge it, the testing procedure, something of that nature, then that is the next move. Then you cannot say, well, this didn't happen. The only choice then is to somehow argue that this was consensual, which, like I said earlier, I think is a tall order given the circumstances and given, the clip that you played didn't show it, but the other clip I saw today said that they had forced this young lady to remove her bra to prove that she did not have drugs on her person. And it would seem like, based on what was in that video, that they did this in front of the two young men and told them to go. So, they're evidencing kind of an intent to sexualize this woman and isolate her. So, that's going to be a strong bit of evidence for the prosecutor in this case. Like I say, I think the prosecutor will have a relatively easy time with this case, despite the normal, maybe preferential treatment that police officers might receive in a court of law.
What would you think a normal citizen would get for this kind of case if convicted?
You mean in terms of years?
In terms of years in jail.
Yeah, it's probably so hard to draw the analogy because of the kidnapping and things like that. But they're facing 25 years, and I'm not, super familiar with the statute, so it wouldn't be any different. It would just be, what the judge would do. A judge could either look at this, as I would, as an overly egregious situation because of the level of public trust that has been imparted upon them, or they could say, hey, these are good guys and they don't need to spend that long in prison. But and it will also depend a lot about the facts and how it plays out. And I don't think we know, many of the reports I saw, exactly, how egregious this was, if there was any violence involved, anything of that nature. We just don't know. What kind of threats might have been made to her, we just don't know.
Right, and we'll see what's admissible also in terms of the threats like that. So it should be interesting, but the prosecutors look like they have a strong case, despite, like you said, the police usually getting a stronger belief in the jurors' belief more in the police and doctors and things like that, as we see historically through the years. But I hope justice is done for this young lady. That's my take on that. Okay.
No doubt about it.
Every day we wake up and we hear somebody new, whether it's Charlie Rose or whether it's this one or that one. Matt Lauer is the latest person to be accused. He did have a statement today, and let's play that, and then we'll talk about Matt Lauer on the other side.
It's a difficult morning here again because our top story is once again about our former colleague, Matt Lauer.
And in fact, we just moments ago received a statement from Matt, and let me read it to you. There are no words to express my sorrow and regret for the pain I have caused others by words and actions. To the people I have hurt, I am truly sorry. As I am writing this, I realize the depth of the damage and disappointment I have left behind at home and at NBC. Some of what is being said about me is untrue or mischaracterized, but there is enough truth in these stories to make me feel embarrassed and ashamed. I regret that my shame is now shared by the people I cherish dearly. Repairing the damage will take a lot of time and soul searching, and I'm committed to beginning that effort. It is now my full-time job. The last 2 days have forced me to take a very hard look at my own troubling flaws. It's been humbling. I am blessed to be surrounded by people I love. I thank them for their patience and grace. That's a statement from Matt that just came in within the last minute or two, and I want to turn to Stephanie Goss, who's our correspondent. Stephanie, you're covering these latest allegations. Please give us your report.
Good morning, guys. On top of the statement, there are also new allegations this morning against Lauer, who has become one of the most high-profile faces of the sexual harassment firestorm engulfing this country. This morning, several more women have leveled sexual misconduct allegations against Matt Lauer. NBC News can report 2 additional women came forward to the network after the news initially broke.
We are devastated.
A former employee told the New York Times anonymously that in 2001, she was sexually assaulted by the anchor in his office. Variety magazine published a report late Wednesday laying out a pattern of alleged misconduct, including exposing himself to an employee in his office and inviting women employed by NBC to his hotel room late at night while covering the Olympic Games over the years. Several women told Variety they complained to executives at the network about Lauer's behavior, which fell on deaf ears. NBC News said in a statement, "We can say unequivocally that prior to Monday night, current NBC News management was never made aware of any complaints about Matt Lauer's conduct."
We thank you for joining us, and we
NBC News fired Lauer roughly 24 hours after an employee made a complaint against the anchor, according to NBC News chairman Andy Lack. Lack released a statement that read, in part, "It represented, after serious review, a clear violation of our company's standards," adding, "While it is the first complaint about his behavior in the over 20 years he's been at NBC News, we were also presented with reason to believe this may not have been an isolated incident." NBC News has reached out to Lauer, who has not commented publicly since his dismissal.
I'm Matt Lauer in Olympic Park in Sochi.
The network confirms the alleged inappropriate sexual behavior reported on Monday night began at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi and continued after that. The accuser's attorney said in part, "While I am impressed by NBC's response to date, I am awed by the courage my client showed to be the first to raise a complaint and to do so without making any demands other than asking the company do the right thing."
Just in shock.
Today's Natalie Morales reacting to Lauer's firing on Access Hollywood Live, praising the anonymous woman who came forward to NBC News.
When and if she wants to tell her story publicly, I'm sure she will, but it did take a lot of courage for her to come forward. It was no doubt a very painful decision.
Lauer is among the most high-profile men in the country brought down by allegations of sexual misconduct, shocking the nation in recent months.
Good morning, everyone.
An anchor of the Today Show for more than 20 years, known as a skillful interviewer of ordinary people, celebrities, and politicians alike. President Trump took a swipe at NBC News after Lauer's dismissal, tweeting in part, "When will the top executives at NBC and Comcast be fired for putting out so much fake news?" Lauer was scheduled to host the Rockefeller Center tree lighting. As you guys know, he was not there last night.
Stephanie, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out.
Okay, Kirk, this is a shock. Well, it's not really a shock. There's just so much of this going on. What is your take when you heard Matt Lauer was the latest person to be involved with this?
Well, you know, you're right. There's certainly been a barrage of this stuff, and it still is shocking. And, you know, and there's so many different layers to this when we talk about the secrecy, the levels of secrecy, the levels of protection, how these women have felt. Our presumption of innocence, you know, it's not just Matt Lauer, it's Roy Moore, it's all these different people that are being accused of this. And one of the things, though, that really is stuck out to me when I was listening to the tape is how much, as a society, we have images of people that we see on our TV sets and we thought, you know, he was the all-American guy, right? A couple of weeks ago, he was, you know, the $25 million a year anchor, a trusted anchor, and that sort of thing, and people held him in high esteem. And then within, you know, days, hours, that all falls apart. And I think it's indicative just of so many different things. But what strikes me is the reality that what we see on TV and how we feel about people, the esteem we hold them in, or the disrepute we hold them in, might not be as accurate as we think it is. And that's certainly one place, I think, to start with this. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I agree, but I wouldn't agree is, kind of saying I'm sorry without any merit. I would, if I was a lawyer, I would tell the client not to say anything of an apology matter. I mean, I've seen that by a couple of people already offering their apologies, and I just question why, if nothing right now could be proven, why, let people, give them more, of a fire, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, why would you say, I'm sorry for some of the things that happened? Because you're kind of admitting something went down when nothing has been proven.
Well, and that's why when I think about this, and when I was thinking about this afternoon, there's so many different layers to this because, we have a court of law where we say, you have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt before someone's guilty of something. But we also have the court of public opinion, right? And we have this rush to judgment, and I think so many times we will believe the accusations made against someone that we don't like and disbelieve the accusations against somebody we like. And we've seen that in the political arena with Mr. Moore, Judge Moore, and now we're seeing it in the entertainment industry more. Like people, if it's somebody we don't like, we're okay with it. We're okay with going after them. We're going to believe them. But when it's somebody like Matt Lauer, it's harder to believe, and then that goes into the story. We've had Charlie Rose, Garrison Keillor, people that were respected, and like I say, that goes back to my point earlier. What we see on TV, or the image we have in our minds and our hearts about the people we see on TV, may not be accurate. I mean, I experienced it firsthand in a completely different way, but there is that court of public opinion and in the political discourse. And so we have to decide, okay, are we going to apply, what standard of proof are we going to apply before we start accepting these allegations or making changes or firing people or whatever it is, or voting or not voting for someone based on these allegations? What standard do we apply to all these things? And that's kind of goes to your point of what you're saying about, well, why are they admitting these things? And there's different reasons why they know what evidence is out there, presumably, and they know all this stuff. So, some of it's damage control, some of it's image. And so there's just so many different layers to it. And whether there's any criminal liability for what Mr. Lauer did, it doesn't sound like it, but maybe potentially. So when there's not that criminal liability, what they're trying to save, I guess, is their image.
Yeah, it's interesting. Matt Lauer, 20 years plus there. A lot of people look to him as a very skilled reporter, which he was. And wow, it's just amazing, all these stories that I wonder when it's going to stop. I mean, every day it's like somebody else is accusing somebody else. And is it a secret in this business that is just coming out? Is everybody just, since the Harvey Weinstein explosion, it went deeper and deeper. It just exploded ever since Harvey Weinstein, which seems like a very long time ago. But after that, that episode got bigger and bigger and bigger. And, Anthony Weiner seems like 100 years ago compared to that.
Right.
It's just
and we're seeing that very talented and capable people can have these demons running with them and not have an outlet for them and not figure out a way to overcome them.
Right. And, these are the ones that are being reported. Can you imagine, if it's true, how many there are out there that are not being reported, that we don't know about, that there's one person that we see on TV every day that people are listening now or watching on TV and thinking, wow, that person really did this. There's probably somebody else out there, getting will be soon to be accused, or maybe not. But point being, it's shocking. I really just hope, not that we don't hear it, but I hope that that's it in terms of this lifestyle, and it's bad for the next generation. I mean, you have parents that they want to put their kids in acting and in Hollywood, and knowing that all this stuff goes on. I mean, is that going to change the wave of the next generation? Is it going to stop? I mean, there's so many questions.
Well, there is, and I don't think it's just limited to the entertainment industry by any means. I think that's probably what gets the attention. We've seen different sorts of misconduct within the corporate environment of Uber, right? I mean, misdeeds about some conduct, and I can't remember them all. The hiding of the hacking and everything, and that's a little off topic, but we see this kind of stuff in our world in general, and it is something that each and every one of us is going to have to decide how we want to conduct ourselves and how we want to react to these allegations. Are we going to be a society that believes every allegation? Or are we going to take a look at them? What is that going to do? Are we going to be able to accept the fact that even accomplished people are flawed human beings? There's, like I say, that's what I said, there's so many cultural layers to it that it's just becoming a powerful force right now. Where will it be in a couple of years? It's hard to say.
And you brought up a very interesting point. There could be people that say things, and the person that they're talking about is completely innocent. But now with all these slew of people, that person won't get the benefit of the doubt now. So that's a sad case if that's the case. We could have an innocent person being accused.
And what will the fear of that accusation bring? I've heard a couple commentators now talk about the idea of this women being in the workplace and men kind of shunning them, and how that's changed, and the negative effects that could have, because perhaps a man is going to be constantly worried about how they interact with a female colleague, or vice versa, and so that kind of, I've even heard of people talk about maybe more of a segregated workplace, and women not being a part of social events at work and things like that for these reasons. And that seems to be equally, if not more, a problematic solution to this issue, to kind of return to days gone by.
Yes, no question about it. Okay, a couple of weeks ago, the one of the balls, three USLA students stole some stuff in China. Donald Trump got involved, allegedly at least. The father of one of the students sat down with CNN's Chris Cuomo, and he didn't want to apologize. Frankly, he was very arrogant. Here is a cut from that. and then we'll talk about the LavarBall Trump situation on the other side.
Did you ever think that you would be on CNN discussing geopolitics and the President of the United States?
Never in my wildest dreams.
Why would you push back on the president?
You can open your eyes and see what's going on. I'm not saying nothing to the president. I'm not just saying thank you to anybody for nothing. I'm just saying I have some things done. I talked to some people that did some other things too.
Ooh.
And then, like I said, people trying to. It doesn't matter.
Sure it does.
I mean, he said he got him out of jail, right? Go. He said, hey, you heard what he tweeted. He tweeted because he's mad at me. I should have left that in jail. First of all, they wasn't in jail. They was in a hotel. Now, how'd they get to the hotel on bail?
Did you make that happen?
Somebody had to do something.
Did you do it?
I'm just telling you, somebody had to do it. Did he do it?
I'm asking you, did you do it?
I'm asking you. Did he do it?
He says he helped get them out of China.
Okay, if he paid for the money to put up whatever we needed to do, then I would say thank you. Did he do that?
So that's the bar. If he doesn't put up bail for the boys, then he doesn't. I think you've made this more difficult than you needed to, and you wound up provoking the president of the United States.
You know what? You making this more difficult. LaVar didn't say thank you to the president.
You didn't.
So that makes me a bad person?
Because of what you said, and it's because you won't say thank you. Hey, thanks. Your son said thank you. The other guy said thank you. So you say thanks. Thanks for helping me.
I'm not the other guys, though. I'm not the other guys. I'm doing something else. I'm not the other guys.
What do you see? I agree with you. You're not the other guys. I think you're trying to round something up.
And
no,
that's
I think
okay.
you
that's
are.
Part of your job.
I think
but I don't get easily
are.
tussled like that.
I think you are. I think you're very clever. I see your big smile on your face.
Are you going to say thank you to me?
I'm going to say thank you at the end of this interview. I will thank you. I guarantee it.
No. Are you going to say thank me now?
I guarantee it. You know why?
Are you going to thank me now?
You know why?
Are you going to thank me now?
Not yet. You haven't earned it yet.
Why are you going to thank me?
Haven't earned it yet.
But no. Why are you not going to thank me?
Haven't earned it yet.
How much was bail in China, guys? How much did it cost to get bailed out?
I'd also like to thank President Trump and the United States government for the help that they provided as well.
What they did was unfortunate. You're talking about very long prison sentences. They do not play games.
Okay, Kirk, you have Lonzo and the president going at it. What's your takeaway from this?
My takeaway is you put me in an impossible position.
Why? You have to defend Trump?
What to make of that interview on CNN and what to make of the whole feud? It seems impossible, but what seems important to me is the fact that these boys that were arrested, these young men, expressed their gratitude to President Trump. You and I and most people out in our country do not know exactly what, if any, efforts President Trump made in order to advance their release. We heard them thank him, and as a matter of fact, there are no losers in the sense that Mr. Ball got about, from what I've heard, $13 million worth of free advertising, and from what I heard tonight, Mr. Ball sent Mr. Trump a pair of those fancy $500 sneakers. So either everybody loses
I don't think
or
anybody bought
wins.
yet.
I don't know, Jordan, because I know you probably couldn't pick a side in this battle either.
I will say though, if Mr. Trump did have something to do with it, the right thing is to say thank you, like his kid did. I mean, regardless of who it was.
You're right, but I mean the boys did, and Mr. Ball obviously has his own take, his own opinion. Do I think it would have hurt him to say thank you? Of course not. But
I mean, you're going into another country and stealing, and we all know that, and you know this, that going into another country and stealing and you just don't do that. You don't do that to begin with, but going in China up to 10 years, they said, for the stuff they stole that was on the table. there in China says that could have been a very ugly situation for the 3 boys there. Well, they're young men.
There's no doubt about it, and yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it, and like I say, I don't think there'd be anything wrong with the expression of gratitude, but I think the people that needed to make it made it. So, I don't know whether Mr. Ball is just seeking to stoke the fires, or what.
It'd be the first time.
Yeah, or if the president is seeking to take credit for work that he didn't do. Like I say, you and I don't know, but it's one of the crazier things I've ever saw on CNN, and it's certainly indicative of the crazy state of our politics. And but I will say this too, you say, well, he should be grateful and say thank you to the president or intimate that. But the other sense is the president implying that he should have left him there, left American citizens in a Chinese jail for that long, does not seem appropriate either. And I could see how Mr. Ball would be offended by that.
That was from a reaction, I guess, from that interview. But I don't know, that's not nice to say, obviously, from the president. And now that the president has been president for 1 year, what is your takeaway on Donald Trump's 1 year worth of presidency here? You have a grade for him?
Oh, you're going to try to get me out on a political angle here.
It's always fun having fun with Trump.
Well, he's a native son of your fair city. But I will just give him an incomplete, and we'll see what happens from now going forward. But it is a scary world we live in, and we are in tough times. As I say, it's almost bizarre to think that we are now in a situation where our president is tweeting and talking about American citizens and engaging in some of these battles that he is.
With all seriousness, is there anything that his plan or anything that he did or wanted to do that you actually agreed on?
Well, if he did help save the young men from a long prison term in China, I would agree with that. Beyond that, nothing comes to mind.
He went out to Houston. He did that. He said a lot of things. Certainly not a fearless man at 71. I'll say that for him. But in 2020, do you have any names that you like to throw in a hat to see maybe a new president?
Boy, I don't know. That's so far down the road, and we've got a lot of. What's that?
It'll be here quicker than you know it.
Well, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. I mean, the amount of sex allegations could be numerous.
Play a role.
Because we had a couple of members of our congressional body accused of this behavior as well. So, I really do think it's too soon for me to speculate. Other than, of course, throwing your name out there, I think. We could run a Jordan King ticket.
That's interesting. We could have your name there too as well. Well, we're throwing names.
Maybe so. But really, I think it's years off, and there's so much that can happen that I hear people like Joe Biden are planning on running, and so who knows? Mike Pence sounds like he's gathering up his war chest as well. So who knows? But
One thing I have issue with, if I had any, things to the president, I don't know if has the power, and you know this very well, being an attorney, is that basically you could be a murderer, or you could steal a pack of gum, you could molest a child, and you're all bunched in there together. You know that probably that happens. A murderer and someone who stole, something for $20 could be in the same jail. Something like that bothers me. I mean, you should not have. I mean, you're probably going to tell me it's a lot of money to put all these people separately, but what's your take on that?
I got a little confused there, but in terms of prison segregation, I believe, typically speaking, I think that the jails and prisons do a good job where you're not seeing, somebody who gets, for example, a DUI in there with murders. Like there's special sections of the jail. As a matter of fact, there's special sections in most jails for sex offenders, so they have their own, kind of area for safety. So I think things are done to kind of prevent that.
Okay, fair enough. So you do have some books that are currently out, and you don't have your Twitter. Well, you have a new Twitter handle, I guess.
I've had it for a while now. It's at Nurmi Unchained.
Okay, and you have your website where
I have my website, which is Nurmi Unchained. Yes, and people can learn about my coaching and speaking practice there. I don't really, necessarily, announce the launching of my books or anything now. That's more related to my business. But, anything related to my books or things that I have coming out or appearances, et cetera, usually winds up on Twitter.
That book that's being contested is still available, right?
You're right. The Trapped with Miss Arias is on Amazon. If you want to know what the controversy is about, et cetera.
That's a hot time to get it.
You can check it out. Yes, a Christmas gift. But yeah, you can check it out and see what it's all about. And I've got my, you were kind enough to mention my 75-pound plus weight loss on the in the introduction there. And
that what it is? 75 pounds? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I lost over 75 pounds, and one of the and I kept it off for about a year until chemotherapy came in, and I thought, well, chemo at least keep me skinny, but between all the steroids and the chemicals, I put on about 45 pounds. And I used the same methods in my, losing weight after chemo that I did before, and lost a lot of that weight. And I ran a half marathon last January to commemorate 1 year out of the chemo chair.
Wow.
And what I did I ran a half marathon, and you know what? The added bonus of it is that no ambulances were called, and I didn't throw up anywhere. So, I consider that a successful half marathon. What's that?
Was this in your Arizona hometown?
It was. It was in the Arizona area, the Phoenix metro area. It was the rock and roll half marathon, P.F. Chang's, I think. And so I did that and survived that, and I, like I said, lost a lot of weight, and I was kind of struggling regaining my strength and that sort of thing. So I did some CrossFit, and like I say, I produced this book a while back called Fighting for Your 2.0. It's a weight loss edition. It's the first of maybe a couple books that I will come out on that, but I wanted to expand on the diet book that I wrote by giving people the opportunity to at least get my take on our relationship with food. And why we eat. You know, I was, you know, through chemotherapy, you eat wildly and you have different cravings and everything, but there's also an emotional component to it. And one of the things I tell in the book, and I've shared this on a YouTube video as well, I talk about, you know, the first step, or one of the first steps, is loving your body as it is to weight loss. Because, you know, when I was done with chemotherapy, I'd gained that 45 pounds. I was bloated. I wasn't happy about what I saw in the mirror, but at the same time, I had to love my body all that much more because it was now cancer-free. And that was the place I started from in terms of starting to lose weight again and just wanting to make myself healthier for me. And I think that's an important message. You know, we're going into the holidays. People make New Year's resolutions that they typically break. I've read somewhere that, you know, most New Year's resolutions, people make the same ones for 10, 15 years, and they're broken within the first few months of the year. And so what I tell people when I think of...
It seems like we have a caller. Would you take this call?
Sure, if I could just finish my thought on the weight loss,
go
if
right
you don't
ahead,
mind.
sure.
It's just this idea that we want to make a lifestyle shift instead of a New Year's resolution. So, you know, for those listeners out there that are interested in making that lifestyle shift, not just a resolution that they're going to break, they really want to change their body and their life, I urge you to pick up that book, that Fighting for Yourself 2.0 and Weight Loss Edition, and just go out there and start fighting for your body and fighting for your health.
Yeah, I do want to get back into that. Just let's say hello to this caller from Houston, 713. You're on live with Kirk Nurmi. Question or thought?
Hello, Jordan. This is Sharon Goff from the Joy Jackson fan page.
Sharon, good evening. How are you? It's a pleasure to talk to you.
I'm doing great. I'm doing
Such
great.
a pleasure.
I wanted to, if you don't mind, I'd like to address something to Mr. Nurmi that is really important to me. I covered your trial from the day that it started, the minute it started to the minute it ended, and when it ended and she was taken away, it didn't end with the hundreds and hundreds of people. It stayed with them for days, as I'm sure it did with you. But what I want to do to you is apologize to you. I know better as a court coordinator. I know you didn't ask for that trial, but my feelings towards you were bitter and negative and hatred, and that's not in my heart. And after reading your book, I want to apologize to you. You're a human being, and I gained a lot of respect for you. And this situation and listening to you tonight, I wanted to apologize to you and tell you that I have the greatest amount of respect for you, and I'm very proud of you. And I just wanted to clear my heart, first of all, and thank you. You've given me a lot of hope to lose weight, so I wanted to thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and saying that. And, you know, I understand that a lot of people, you know, got very emotionally involved in the trial. And, you know, it stirred a lot of hatred and anger in a lot of people, and which I think is sad because, you know, if you've read my book, I say, you know, there's a lot of lessons about getting out of unhealthy relationships and things that we should take away from that trial that have kind of been lost in a lot of the hatred and the anger. And I just want you to know I appreciate what you said again. I bear no ill will, and, you know, I hope my book or my videos on YouTube or whatever it is help you lose weight, and that you can love yourself and move forward and get the body that you want and that you deserve.
I can do that. If I could, Jordan, I'd like to address something to you. Just a
Go right ahead,
second,
Sharon.
if I had it. Matt Lauer, there were text messages and pictures from him. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
There were text messages from him and pictures, so there wasn't any denying him being guilty with this lady. So they didn't just go in overnight and in 24 hours and fire the top star. I don't know if you knew that or not, but maybe the other stuff is not true. But I know some of it is, apparently, from what they are.
Oh, so you're saying the text messages. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're finding out more and more.
Yeah.
Now, Sharon, before you leave us, did I hear you say you're from a Jordan fan page?
No, she's from the Joey Jackson fan page.
Oh, Joey Jackson fan page. Okay. Well, I thought Jordan had his own fan page. I was going to get this presidential campaign going for you, Jordan.
Well, I did want to tie him into my feelings when I said the JJF page. I'm the admin.
Sharon has been an awesome support person for the show since inception in 12, and she's an awesome person. You do a great job with that page, Joey Jackson, and reporting the news, and it's so good to hear your voice for the first time, Sharon.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed your show, and Mr. Nurmi, the best of wishes to you.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again.
That'd be great. Bye-bye.
Have yourself a good one, Sharon. Good evening. Okay, Mr. Nurmi, and I was going to tell you that what do you think of bicycle riding?
In terms of a form of exercise?
In terms of a form of exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for a lot of people. I mean, each and every person is gonna find their thing. It's funny you ask that because in Phoenix summer, I don't get much a chance to hop on my bike, and I did maybe about a week and a half ago here, and it really kicked my butt. But so I think it's good exercise. It's something that is low impact, good on the joints, and I think it's always great for people to try new thing. You might have saw this. So we're friends on Facebook. I had put up there that my wife signed me up for 4 months of hot yoga, and I joked that it might be a murder plot. But I think I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone and trying to bend my middle-aged behind into a pretzel in a 105-degree yoga studio. So, it's nice for each one of us to step outside of our comfort zone in our fitness and try different things that we might not always try. Because if I can get my behind into a 105-degree yoga studio, people can find different ways to exercise that excite them.
What I do, I have this program. It's you basically put on your headphones. There's a guy named Charles Linden. He runs a whole program to anxiety free, blah blah blah. Long story short, he has this part in the program where you listen to these visualizations. They're about 25, 30 minutes long. My God. He tells you to close your eyes and picture this, and he gets you. It's almost like, wow, you feel like you're in Hawaii when you wake up. It's an amazing thing what the mind could feel when it's in a zone and allowed to be free, and allowed the pressure to be off of any incoming thoughts that you don't want. And
well, I think that's definitely true. Meditation is a huge. I mean, we could go on for an hour about the benefits of meditation, but it's a huge benefactor to the mind.
It certainly is.
And you think about how much stuff we. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say we clutter our mind so much with stuff, and our mind. I hear a lot of people say this. I'm certainly not the first. That our mind is kind of created to solve problems, and that's its function biologically. And when we don't have problems, we create them, or we invent them, or we create scenarios where problems can come in. And when we quiet the mind and really listen to the energy of the universe, listen to the intuitive powers of the heart, I think we're much better served. We not get distracted by the dilemmas of the day that won't mean anything tomorrow. I went through this great exercise a while back. A mentor of mine said, "What were your problems 5 years ago, 10 years ago?" And the ultimate point of it being, or part of the point of it being, is that those problems, some of them you might not remember. Some of them might be repetitious, but some of them you might not even remember, like, oh, you got a door ding or your key broke. You just don't even remember this stuff that was such a big deal at one time, and it shows the temporary nature of our problems, and to get mired in them only bogs us down and prevents our own evolution, our own chance to move forward.
Well, Kirk, I want to thank you, first of all, for being such a good friend and coming on the show. I want to wish you peace on this earth as long as you may be here, and hope everything goes well with your upcoming battles with whatever they may be, and I hope you prevail to the top, and I wish you the best. And
well, thank you, Jordan. The same to you. The same to you. The same to all your listeners. I wish them all a happy holiday, and I always appreciate talking with you. It's always a lot of fun, and I hope it is fun for the listeners as it was for us.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Kirk. We'll speak soon.
You bet. Take care, Jordan.
Okay. That was Kirk Nurmi, former attorney for Jodi Arias. The book is Trapped with Miss Arias, along with a lot of other books. Next week, we'll be joined with Danny Savalas, making his debut right here on the King Jordan Radio Show. That's next Thursday, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West, 8:30 on Central Time. Want to thank Sharon from Joey Jackson fan page on Facebook for calling in, and what a beautiful thing she said. Mad props to her. Also want to give a shout out to our friend Maddie, who has been a great support system in terms of the show. Pager as well. Lisa. There's Vicky. There's so many. I just don't have everybody in the top of my head. But with that in mind, let's make this a celebration for TBT. Let's go to Kool and the Gang and have a celebration for tonight on King Jordan Radio. Thanks for listening, everybody.